Emmet's Proclamation, 1803. Proclamation of the Irish Republic issued by Robert Emmet, July 23rd, 1803, at the outset of the Second United Irishman Revolt. The Provisional Government to the people of Ireland. You are now called on to shew to the world that you are competent to take your place among nations, that you have a right to claim their recognizance of you as an independent country by the only satisfactory proof you can furnish of your capability of maintaining your independence, your wresting it from England with your own hands. In the development of this system, which has been organized within the last 8 months at the close of internal defeat and without the hope of foreign assistance, which has been conducted with a tranquility mistaken for obedience, which neither the failure of a similar attempt in England has retarded, nor the renewal of hostilities has accelerated. In the development of this system, you will show to the people of England that there is a spirit of perseverance in this country beyond their power to calculate or to repress. You will show to them that as long as they think to hold unjust dominion over Ireland, under no change of circumstances can they count on its obedience. Under no aspect of affairs can they judge of its intentions. You will show to them that the question which it now behooves them to take into serious and instant consideration is not whether they will resist a separation which it is our fixed determination to effect, but whether or not they will drive us beyond separation. Whether they will be sanguinary, whether there will be a sanguinary, whether they will by a sanguinary resistance create a deadly national antipathy between the two countries, or whether they will take the only means still left of driving such a sentiment from our minds, a prompt, manly, and sagacious acquiescence in our just and unalterable determination. In the secrecy of which the present effort has been conducted, shall have led our enemies to suppose that its extent must have been partial. A few days will undeceive them. That confidence, which was once lost by trusting to external support and suffering our own means to be gradually undermined, has been again restored. We have been mutually pledged to each other to look only to our own strength, and that the first introduction of a system of terror, the first attempt to execute an individual in one country, should be the signal of insurrection in all. We have now, without the loss of a man, with our means of communication untouched, brought our plans to the moment when they are ripe for execution, and in the promptitude with which 19 counties will come forward at once to execute them, it will be found that neither confidence nor communication are wanting to the people of Ireland. In calling on our countrymen to come forward, we feel ourselves bound at the same time to justify our claim to their confidence by a precise declaration of our views. We therefore solemnly declare that our object is to establish a free and independent republic in Ireland, that the pursuit of this object we will relinquish only with our lives, that we will never, unless at the express call of our country, abandon our post until the acknowledgement of its independence is obtained from England, and that we will enter into no negotiation but for exchange of prisoners with the government of that country while a British army remains in Ireland. Such is the declaration which we call on the people of Ireland to support, and we call first on that part of Ireland which was once paralyzed by the want of intelligence it to show that to that cause only was its inaction to be attributed, on that part of Ireland which was once foremost by its fortitude in suffering, on that part of Ireland which once offered to take the salvation of the country on itself. In that part of Ireland where the flame of liberty first glowed, we call upon the North to stand up and shake off their slumber and their oppression. Men of Leinster, stand to your arms. To the courage which you have already displayed, is your country indebted for the confidence which it now feels in its own strength, and for the dismay with which our enemies will be overwhelmed when they shall find this effort to be universal. But men of Leinster, you owe more to your country than the having animated it by your past example. You owe more to your own courage than the having obtained by it a protection. If 6 years ago, when you rose without arms, without plan, without cooperation, with more troops against you alone than are now in the country at large, you were able to remain for 6 weeks in open defiance of the government, and within a few miles of the capital, what will you not now effect with that capital and every other part of Ireland ready to support you? But it is not on this head that we have need to address you. No, we now speak to you, and through you, to the rest of Ireland, on a subject dear to us even as the success of our country, its honor. You are accused by your enemies of having violated that honor, expresses which they themselves had in their fullest extent provoked, but which they have grossly exaggerated, have been attributed to you. The opportunity of vindicating yourselves by action is now for the first time before you, and we call upon you to give the lie to such assertions by carefully avoiding every appearance of plunder, intoxication, or revenge, recollecting that you lost Ireland before, not from want of courage, but from not having that courage rightly directed by discipline. But we trust that your past sufferings have taught you experience, and that you will respect the declaration which we now make, and which we are determined by every means in our power to enforce. The nation alone possesses the right of punishing individuals, and whosoever shall put another person to death except in battle without a fair trial by his country is guilty of murder. The intention of the Provisional Government of Ireland is to claim from the English government such Irishmen as have been sold or transported by it for their attachment to freedom, and for this purpose it will retain as hostages for their safe return such adherents of that government as shall fall into its hands. It therefore calls upon the people to respect those hostages, and to recollect that in spilling their blood they would leave their own countrymen in the hands of their enemies. The intention of the Provisional Government is to resign its functions as soon as the nation will have chosen its delegates, but in the meantime it is determined to enforce the regulations hereunto subjoined. It, in consequence, takes the property of the country under its protection, and will punish with the utmost rigor any person who shall violate that property, and thereby injure the present resources and the future prosperity of Ireland. Whoever refuses to march to whatever part of the country he is ordered is guilty of disobedience to the government, which alone is competent to decide in what place his services are necessary, and which desires him to recollect that in whatever part of Ireland he is fighting, he is still fighting for its freedom. Whoever presumes by acts or otherwise to give countenance to the calumny propagated by our enemies that this is a religious contest is guilty of the grievous crime of belaying the motives of his country. Religious disqualification is but one of the many grievances of which Ireland has to complain. Our intention is to remove not that only, but every other oppression under which we labor. We fight that all of us may have our country, and that done, each of us shall have his religion. We are aware of the apprehensions which you have expressed, that in quitting your own counties, you leave your wives and children in the hands of your enemies, but on this head we have no uneasiness. If there are still men base enough to persecute you, who are unable to resist, show them by your victories that we have the power to punish, and by your obedience that we have the power to protect, and we pledge ourselves to you that these men shall be made to feel that the safety of everything they hold dear depends on the conduct they observe to you. Go forth then with confidence, conquer the foreign enemies of your country, and leave to us the share of preserving its internal tranquility. Recollect that you not only the victory, but also the honor of your country is placed in your hands. Give up your private resentments and shew to the world that the Irish are not only brave, but also generous and forgiving people.